Bestie from Elite Sports Training here. Today I'm going to talk to you about wrist snaps. It's one of the most basic skills that is taught or drills that are taught by instructors today, and we want to dive into what that actually looks like. First one up is Amanda Scarborough. I've chose pitchers who are in promo videos who are throwing fastballs that we know for sure. So as we watch Amanda, the first thing I'm going to notice is that her elbow is leading her arm. The other thing we're going to notice is that her wrist is in a neutral position, meaning her hand is in line with her forearm. So a lot of pitchers sometimes will learn to either flex or extend the wrist to warm up the wrist or work on spins, but we're going to see that when we do what people would call a wrist snap, or when we whip or release the ball, that the wrist actually stays in a neutral position, our elbow leads, and we're going to see a bunch of other things that are similar across the board. With good posture, you'll see that most pitchers brush into their side. They're actually going to decelerate their upper arm into their lower arm and eventually into their hand. And with that comes a whip. All right, it's like a pendulum going back and forth. We're creating segments of the body that transfers and decelerates and accelerates different parts of the body. The other thing to notice is what I'll say is her hips are in a halfway open position, and she stabilizes the hips into release, meaning you're not seeing the hips slide forward or rotate as she's coming into release. They stay still to accept the arm, and as the arm comes in, what you're going to see in the shoulder or the forearm is that it turns inward towards the body. So it starts in what we call an external rotation and then ends up into an internal rotation. So again, you're still not seeing much flexion of the wrist here as she lets go of the ball. Once the energy of the ball, the force of the ball has left, that's where you'll see some flexion of the wrist. Let's now watch it here in Daniel Laurie. A very similar movement. Her shoulder is in external rotation, the palm is facing out. She has pretty good posture, so you see the arm kind of connect into the side right here. Her hips are halfway open. Her body stabilizes. The shoulders and the hips aren't moving much. And as she lets go near that back hip, you're going to see that forearm turn inward. And then after that, a slight flexion of the wrist. So again, it goes from external rotation into internal rotation. Again, you see it here in Jenny Finch. Her palm is slightly facing outward. Her elbow is leading. As she gets here, her shoulder's in external rotation and then turns into internal rotation. You'll see the wrist is in a neutral position, up to here, up to here. After the ball is gone, then there's flexion in the wrist right there. And we're going to see it again here in Kiko. And she really has a lot of elbow leading right here. I think this is the key to speed, is create a little more lag in the hand where the elbow leads a little bit more before it connects. And then that will speed up the hand. It acts as a brake, and then the hand gets even faster. It also takes the stress off the shoulder. And as we get here, you see her turn in, her wrist is not flexed, the ball is out, there's a little bit of flexion, and then she really stays loose and gets a lot of flexion afterward. From here to here, look how stable and still the body is. There's not much movement there. The shoulders and hips are halfway open, and she keeps that all still as she goes into release. So how could we as instructors train this into beginners? How do we teach them how to release like this? Should we even call it a wrist snap? Or is it more of just a whip into release right there? Here's my first suggestion is just cut out any wrist snap drills with flexion or extension. That's not the way we let go of the ball. It's not the way we create spin. And if anything, it adds force into the ball or creates tension so that the spin rate is not as fast. What we can do is just simply back chain. Make sure that you are in a position where your body is halfway open. Your weight is bearing on your front foot. You have barely any weight on your back foot. So getting in the right position in the start, having good posture, and starting where maybe your forearm is inward and the ball is in your hand at this point right here. And then keeping your elbow connected, turn open with your forearm. So keep the elbow where it is and then just open up towards your forearm. And then from here, you could disconnect your elbow, come up, and just come back through. And just be nice and loose with this. Now, you don't even have to move the back leg. You can just keep it upright on the front leg at this point. And just working on this to this, keeping it as loose as possible and trying not to rotate the shoulders, keeping all of this in a still position. I'd even prefer Nairi's a little tilted down. I would even prefer it be a little more tilted up, keeping all of this in a still position right here, not allowing the player to move it. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you have a better understanding on how to release the ball. We'll get into what spin this tends to create in another video. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.